Let's explore today's mysteries, and you will have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. Viking glass board game pieces found in Sweden. The moment the tiny blue glass piece emerged from the soil of Lindisfarne, a chill swept through the dig site. Crowns do not often lie buried beneath ancient Viking ashes, but here it was, a delicate, 1,200-year-old glass king piece, crowned with 5 pristine white baubles, exuding the faded grandeur of a lost game of strategy and power. Archaeologists froze. This was no ordinary artifact. It was a window into the turbulent dawn of the Viking Age, plucked from the very ground where the first violent Viking raid had battered the Northumbrian monastery in AD 793. An eyewitness, one of the Dig Ventures team, recalled the electric anticipation. "We'd been excavating the monastery's remains all summer, but when that crowned piece surfaced, wrapped in blue glass swirling with white, it was like the past whispered through our fingertips. It felt alive." The intricate glass craftsmanship, rare for gaming pieces in Britain, stood out among the usual wooden scraps. Such objects were the tokens of Nefadafel, a fiercely intellectual war game wielded by Viking raiders and their adversaries alike, a game of kings and attackers that mirrored their brutal world. But when the scientists brought their instruments to bear, the electron microscopes, compositional analyses, the painstaking comparisons across Viking-era burials, answers slipped through their fingers. The glass's exact origin remained enigmatic. While pieces like this had been found scattered throughout the Scandinavian world, especially in the bustling Norse trade hub of Birka, Sweden, where glass sets with swirling spiral patterns and iron-mounted king pieces had survived for over a millennium, the Lindisfarne artifact was exceptional in Britain. How has this piece traveled so far? Was it a spoils of war trophy or a treasured relic brought by Viking settlers? Scholars grappled with conflicting theories but hit dead ends as radiocarbon dating and chemical forensics failed to pinpoint a definitive trade route or workshop. Then came the eerie unknown. Beyond its beauty and craftsmanship, the piece exuded a silent menace. The monastery it came from was obliterated in the Viking raid. Fire, scream, death. And yet here lay a game piece, as if frozen in a haunting moment of peace amid destruction. Could it be that the Vikings paused, as chaos raged, to release their king on the board? Or was it dropped in panic, forgotten forever? No written records or Viking sagas mention such tiny islands of calm in the storm of conquest. Today, the piece rests in a museum, its swirls of blue and white glass gleaming beneath artificial lights. But its story lingers like a ghost. Why was this exquisite glass king found alone? What silent battles did it witness? Did the Viking warriors ever truly lay down their weapons and bond over this ancient war game amidst bloodshed? And most chillingly, what other buried secrets, locked in fragments of glass, wait still concealed beneath the soil of lands forever scarred by Viking fury? The past has no final move. A victim of Waldemar Atterdag's Dury invasion of Visby in 1361 still in his chainmail. Flames still smoldered in the distance, but near the city walls of Visby lay a silent, grim testament to the carnage that had unfolded just hours before. Among the fallen strewn across the blood-soaked earth, one figure caught the archaeologist's eyes, a warrior preserved in his chainmail, his iron rings still locked tightly around his body, as if frozen in the agony of his last breath. This was no mere skeleton. It was a visceral frozen moment from the brutal Battle of Visby in July 1361, when King Valdemar Atterdag's Danish forces unleashed one of Scandinavia's bloodiest medieval massacres. An eyewitness account from the recovered chronicles described how peasant levies from Gotland, ill-equipped and desperate, faced the ruthless, battle-hardened Danish knights. They stood shoulder to shoulder, horns blown, faces pale but resolute. The account lamented. Yet, the thundering charge disintegrated their lines, and few survived. The bodies of the defeated, some still clutching hastily drawn farming tools, were dumped into mass graves outside the city. Archaeologists discovered these graves centuries later, the chainmail-clad corpses remarkably intact thanks to the protective iron rings, one of whom appeared to have died mid-fight, trapped forever in his armor's suffocating embrace. Scientists attempted to piece together the violent tableau through forensic examination. Osteologists studied lethal wounds, stab wounds from swords, and crushing blows from maces fragmenting bones beneath the chainmail. Chemical analyses revealed high levels of soil acids, revealing decomposition patterns that strangely preserved metallic armor but left human flesh to vanish rapidly. Yet, despite advanced technology, questions defied answers. What exact weapons felled these peasants? How heroic, or futile, was their final stand? No written accounts detailed the precise battle tactics, only the overwhelming slaughter. The archaeology revealed a grisly battlefield, but left a ghostly silence about the thousands who fought and died, their motives, fears, and final moments lost to time. The eeriness deepened as the graves whispered of a forgotten massacre overshadowed by tales of plunder and city ransom. Visby's citizens reportedly surrendered without fighting, but the peasants who tried to halt Valdemar's men outside the gates were destroyed mercilessly. Their armed bodies were so densely packed in mass graves that some wearers of chainmail and helmets were found pressed face down, eternally captured in the chaos of their slaughter. Some experts suggest these mass graves were hastily filled, a stark reminder of medieval brutality hidden beneath peaceful city ruins. The preservation of armor amidst decay hinted at stories the soil refused to reveal, silent screams beneath the earth. Now resting beneath Visby's soil, their skeletal remains encased in rusting rings of chainmail persist as haunting reminders of a brutal conquest. Who was this warrior trapped in his iron links? A desperate farmer turned fighter, a noble doomed knight, or a forgotten soul caught in the furnace of history's violent tides? Why did his armor survive so intact while his story remains a puzzle? And how many more silent witnesses to that horrific July day lie hidden, waiting for the soil to loosen its grip? The Battle of Visby's dead still speak from their wounds, if only we dare listen. A fully intact Anglo-Saxon Sutton, who helmet. Scraps of iron snapped under the conservators' trembling gloves. Hundreds of them, dark and jagged, each a silent scream from beneath the earth. There, in the collapsed heart of an ancient ship burial in Sutton Hoo, the team realized what they were unearthing wasn't just a helmet. It was the face of a long-dead king, armored against time as surely as he had been against blades, a testament to East Anglia's power, suddenly unleashed from the soil in a single, shuddering moment. A leading archaeologist could barely keep his voice steady as he recalled that first, unmistakable contour. When the brow's curve appeared, I saw eyes staring back, beast, man, dragon, all at once. The silence was absolute. Layer by layer, twisted iron and copper alloy revealed the helmet's ancient visage, eye holes, a mustache, and a gleaming, dragon-headed crest. It was unlike anything Britain had ever seen, a warrior's mask that doubled as a masterpiece crafted to awe and terrify in equal measure. Scientists swarmed in, restoration pioneers, metallurgists, teams trained on electron microscopes. Yet, even in the wake of 21st century technology, the helmet resisted simple answers. DNA on corroded fragments faded into noise. Metallurgical analysis only confirmed the extraordinary. Tinned copper, garnets, details once believed impossible for early medieval craftsmen to produce. As the digital scans mapped every groove, the myth of a fully intact artifact collapsed. The helmet had been found shattered, entombed, and only after decades of forensic jigsaw could it be reborn in haunting perfection. More recent archaeological finds have thrown even its origins into shadow. For decades, scholars pointed to Swedish design motifs as signatures. Warriors on horseback, dragon interlace, clues to the king's far-reaching alliances. Yet, discoveries in Denmark have upended everything. A metalworking die found on the island of Tasinge shows a dragon and warrior's harness nearly identical to those on the Sutton Hoo helmet. Now, even the place of its making trembles. Was this last stand of Anglo-Saxon identity forged by Danish hands? Could it have been a trophy, a gift, a warning sent across the North Sea? A mask designed to blur the lines between king, beast, and god? No one can say what soul once peered from behind those silver wire brows. The body in the burial mound, likely King Raedwald, was surrounded by treasures, gold sword fittings, a Byzantine silver platter, an entire warship's bones, all sealed beneath an earthen barrow. The helmet, wrapped in cloth, was laid at the left of the head, facing eternity with its dragon's gaze. Today, the helmet's reconstructed form sits in the British Museum, captive under lights instead of earth. But the dread it evokes lingers. Was it worn into the final battle, or laid by gentle hands as a death mask? What did those last moments of burial sound like? Chant, wind, whispers from the sea. Is the warrior's face beneath, or does the mask itself still watch, waiting for its king to return? The making of the helmet, and the darkness at its core, remain unanswered, a question folded in iron, hungry for splinters of truth. The bust of Charlemagne containing the top of his skull. The glint of gold and jewel-encrusted silver did little to soften the unsettling truth. Within the ornate bust of Charlemagne, meticulously crafted around 1350, lay the top portion of his skull. It was a reliquary, not a mere sculpture, designed to house and venerate the very remains of the man who shaped medieval Europe, bringing a chill reminder of the macabre piety of an age that blurred the lines between royal reverence and the sacred. It's not just an artifact, it's a direct, physical link to one of history's giants. An archaeologist might have mused, staring at the Gothic masterpiece in the Aachen Cathedral treasury. The bust, showing an idealized Charlemagne with a 14th-century hairstyle and crown, offered a stylized face to the bone within. Yet, the true eyewitness was a chillingly silent one. The skull itself, sealed away for centuries, holding the true form of the legendary emperor beneath its gilded cage. When scientists finally began their rigorous investigation, the bust's secret was already known, but its authenticity remained a haunting question. Starting in 1988, researchers secretly exhumed the vast majority of Charlemagne's bones from his tomb in Aachen Cathedral. For 26 years, meticulous examinations were conducted on the 94 bones and bone fragments found in his shrine. Despite the advanced forensic tools available, definitive authentication proved elusive. There's no absolute way to scientifically confirm the bones are Charlemagne's. However, the skeletal remains pointed to a tall, thin, older male who walked with a limp, a description that matched historical accounts of Charlemagne, who died in his late 60s or early 70s in AD.814. The isolated skull fragment from the bust, along with leg bones from other reliquaries, fit coherently with the skeleton found in the sarcophagus. Yet, the very act of scattering his remains into various reliquaries across Europe, a leg bone in one, teeth in another, and his skull cap in the bust, added a layer of macabre complexity, leaving tiny doubts lingering like shadows. The eerie event surrounding the bust isn't just its contents, but the strange journey of Charlemagne's bones after death. His body, interred in Aachen Cathedral, was not left to rest in one piece. Fragments were distributed as relics, leading to claims of his bones in various locations, including Prague. The skull's presence in a bejeweled bust 500 years after his death exemplifies this medieval practice of fragmenting and displaying saintly, or near-saintly, remains. This process transformed a once-living ruler into a collection of sacred fragments, each encased in art, hinting at a reverence that bordered on obsession. Today, the bust of Charlemagne remains a centerpiece of the Aachen Cathedral treasury. The research, concluding in 2014, strongly suggests the bones within are indeed his, offering a chilling validation to the medieval belief. Yet, gazing upon the idealized, gold-plated face, one can't help but feel a lingering dread. What does it truly mean to hold the skull of a 1,000-year dead emperor in a gilded cage? Does the bust celebrate his legacy, or does it whisper of a time when the powerful, even in death, could not escape the grip of those who sought to control their memory, their very essence, piece by macabre piece? The silence of the skull offers no answers, only a timeless, unsettling gaze from behind a mask of gold. Leather boots belonging to a 500-year-old skeleton in London. Mud swallowed him whole, swallowing the sound of desperate gasps beneath the gray Thames tide. Face down, frozen forever in that moment of terror, lay a man whose skeleton wore something no one expected, a pair of thigh-high leather boots, intact after 500 years. Discovered at Chambers Wharf during excavations for London's massive Thames Tideway tunnel, the site sent waves through the archaeological community. It was not just a burial. It was a silent scream from a forgotten life, trapped in mud and mystery. Beth Richardson, senior finds specialist at Museum of London Archaeology, described unearthing the boots as nothing short of fascinating and rare. The boots were more than footwear. They were a chronicle. Reinforced with extra soles and stuffed with moss or another unknown material, possibly for warmth or fit. They spoke of a man who lived and worked on perilous waters, likely a fisherman, sailor, or mudlark surviving the brutal demands of the late 15th or early 16th century. The skeleton's position, one arm flung above the head, the other bent, face down in the thick mud, shattered any notion of a solemn burial. Instead, authorities believe he slipped or was swept into the muddy riverbanks, drowning or struck down before the rising tide claimed him quickly. Scientists descended on this grim tableau with cutting-edge techniques, but the story proved elusive. Bone analysis revealed stress markers consistent with decades of hard labor. Deep grooves on teeth eerily aligned with someone who habitually passed rope through their mouth, a hallmark of fishermen's toil. Yet, for all science's power, questions persisted. How exactly did he die? Did the river betray him in a cruel accident, or was there something darker? No evidence pointed to foul play, but the silent river kept its secrets, casting an eerie shadow over the discovery. The deeper mystery lies in the boots themselves. Leather garments rarely survive centuries, especially submerged, and almost never still worn on the body. Fashion and economy dictated leather's recycling, not clandestine burials with luxury items intact. These boots' existence on a drowned man hints at a sudden catastrophe. No time for removal, no ritual. The Thames, historically a lifeline and a graveyard, has claimed countless lives. Yet this man's story, locked in mud and leather, echoes uniquely. Was he fleeing, working, or simply unlucky when the tide turned? The customs of Tudor London, the danger, the river's cruel embrace, spread out behind him in shadows. Today, the boots glisten faintly under museum lights, the mossy stuffing long decayed but still visible in places, a tactile connection to a vanished world. His skeleton lies preserved beside them, a gripping testament to London's harsh medieval past. And yet, a lingering dread remains. In the marathon history of the Thames, how many more like him lie unmarked beneath the sediments? People lost to the relentless pull of the river, their lives abruptly ended in the mud, their stories buried under the city's roar. This man's silent sneakers urge us not to look away, as if the river still whispers his name under the floodwaters, reminding us that sometimes history's dead still wear their boots. An ivory crozier carved with St. Olave entwined in foliage. Mud, leaves, and twisting vines seem to have swallowed the golden echoes of power. But deep in the late 14th century Norwegian forest, a master craftsman was carving an ivory crozier, a bishop's pastoral staff, that would bind saintly authority and nature into one mesmerizing enigma. This crozier's head, made from 2 pieces of walrus ivory, was no ordinary religious artifact. It held the figure of St. Olave himself, entwined within spiraling foliage, his regal axe, orb, and crown unmistakable amid a dense tangle of leaves and beaded veins. An eyewitness of sorts was the crozier itself, silent but alive with symbolism. On one side, St. Olave stood firm, a king-turned-saint who forged Norway's Christian identity before his martyrdom in 1030. On the reverse, an enigmatic bishop saint blessed with a mitre and crozier, his face a ghostly echo of ecclesiastical power. The organic curve of the staff, shaped by the walrus tusk's natural form, gave the crozier an eerie vitality, as if it were a living branch grown from sacred soil. Every carved leaf and bud bore traces of gilding, flickering faintly as if caught between earthly creation and heavenly splendor. When modern scientists took up the challenge, their tools drilled into this mystery, but failed to unravel its full tale. Microscope analyses revealed the intricate joint where 2 pieces of ivory were fused diagonally to form the volute, the spiral at the crozier's head, an unusual technique demanding precision and patience, hinting at the rarity and reverence invested in this piece. Bone pegs and animal glue, invisible to the naked eye until careful restoration, held the fragile sculpture together. Chemical tests confirmed original gold gilding on leaves and figures, yet restorations with lighter bone filled gaps, adding layers of history written in repair. Art historians traced its style to Norway, probably Trondheim, inside a complex web of Romanesque foliate traditions mixed with late medieval influences, a perfect emblem of faith wrapped in nature's enduring grasp. Yet this crosier's eerie presence extends beyond craftsmanship to its haunting symbolism. Saint Olav was no mere religious figure. He was a warrior king who died in battle, later canonized as Norway's protector and unifier of Christianity. His portrayal entwined in leaves evokes legend and mortality entwined, nature reclaiming man, faith interlaced with earthly fragility. The mysterious bishop opposite Olav may represent the Archbishop of Trondheim, his blessing a solemn reminder of the church's authority intertwined with the crown's legacy. The crozier once belonged to powerful clerics who wielded spiritual rule like swords, and its presence sparked whispers of power struggles hidden beneath sacred rites. Today, this ivory crozier head commands reverence at the Victoria and Albert Museum, a cold but radiant relic transporting viewers to the shadows of medieval Norway. It breathes a lingering dread. Who held this staff, touching the intertwined forces of nature and sanctity? What prayers and power did it command? And sharply, why does this fragile carving, made of walrus ivory from the harsh northern seas, still haunt us, with its serene saint locked forever in foliage, as if guarding a secret neither time nor science can fully uncover? The crozier keeps its silence, beckoning us to listen to the whispers of the forest, the crown, and the axe all entwined in one timeless embrace. A 1,500-year-old Dharmachakra, the Buddhist wheel of law. The moment the limestone Dharmachakra was pulled from the earth in central Thailand, its ancient spokes caught the light and seemed to pulse with a silent power. This was no ordinary relic. It was a 1,500-year-old wheel of the law was carved from a single block of stone during the 7th or 8th century in the Dvaravati kingdom, an early Buddhist culture. 23 intricately sculpted spokes radiated from its hollowed hub, encircled by delicate pearl-like carvings, all crowned by an open lotus at its base, an emblem of purity and enlightenment. Across time and upheaval, this lifeless stone held an eerie vitality, quietly evoking a world where the cycles of suffering and liberation spun relentlessly. An eyewitness to its rediscovery described the intensity. Holding that wheel, you could almost feel the Buddha's first sermon echoing, the moment he set the Dharma spinning in motion at Sarnath over 2,500 years ago. This wheel symbolized more than a teaching. It was an eternal cosmic rhythm, the cycle of samsara, the endless wheel of rebirth and suffering. Its very form encoded Buddhist philosophy, the hub signifying moral discipline, the rim representing mindfulness holding everything together, and the spokes radiating the noble eightfold path, guiding souls toward liberation. To ancient devotees, turning this wheel meant turning away from ignorance that trapped existence in endless rebirth. Scientists rushed to examine the Dharmachakra with modern precision, yet every new insight only deepened the enigma. Petrographic analysis confirmed the limestone's regional origin, linking it unambiguously to the Dvaravati culture, yet the sophisticated craftsmanship defied the presumed technological capabilities of the era. How did artisans carve such delicate concentric circles and perfectly aligned spokes without shattering the stone? Chemical residue suggested traces of ancient pigments once covered the surface, now vanish save for faint shadows beneath centuries of erosion. Attempts to reconstruct the wheel's original colors and usage remain inconclusive. Was it a pious monument outside a temple, a ceremonial object, or a symbol for a secretive spiritual society? Even more unsettling were the uncrackable mysteries surrounding its ceremonial role. The lotus symbol at the base was widely recognized as a metaphysical metaphor, but the 23 spokes, exceeding the familiar 8, hinted at unknown dimensions of Buddhist cosmology or lost ritual meaning. Why 23, rather than the classic 8 or 24? Could this reflect a forgotten doctrinal variation, a secret sect, or even syncretism with indigenous beliefs? Every scholarly hypothesis collided with absence. No texts mentioned this precise form, No oral traditions exist to explain why such wheels vanished from some Buddhist chronicles yet endured here in stone. As night falls on the Dharmachakra today, it rests silently in the Victoria and Albert Museum's gallery, a cryptic emblem of spiritual law carved in eternity. Staring into its hollow hub, the visitor is left with a dread that transcends faith. What cosmic forces pulse within this sculpture, still turning unseen? What ancient ceremonies once summoned its power, lost in the shadows of time? And ominously, how many such wheels lie buried in forgotten temples, their meaning imprisoned beneath the dust of centuries? The Dharmachakra whispers a truth harder than stone itself. The cycle of life, death, and rebirth spins ever on, and some secrets, like the turning wheel, may never stop haunting us. A celestial globe mapping the sky from the Islamic Golden Age. Flames of mystery ignited the moment the brass celestial globe from the Islamic Golden Age was uncovered. A globe not just sculpted, but born from cosmic knowledge, mapping the heavens as no Western world had dared before. Crafted between 1080 and 1085 CE by the master astrolabe maker Ibrahim ibn Saad al-Sali in Valencia, this ancient globe was a tactile map of the starry vault, embodying a fusion of Greek astronomy and Islamic ingenuity that spun the celestial sphere at the heart of medieval science. An eyewitness moment. One scholar described the globe's hollow orb etched with more than 1,000 shimmering stars, and the 48 classical constellations immortalized in Ptolemy's Almagest, yet reimagined through the careful revisions of the Persian astronomer Abd al-Rahman al-Sufi. Al-Sufi's book of fixed stars redefined these constellations, blending Greek geometry with Bedouin star lore, and this globe bore their luminous legacy. Constellations drawn as living figures, their stars delicately marked by silver dots, the zodiac circling endlessly. Holding such a globe was like gripping the cosmos itself, each marking a guide for prayers, navigation, and the measuring of time. Scientists armed with spectroscopic analysis and petrographic microscopy sought to decode this masterpiece's secrets, but the answers only deepened the wonder. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, metalwork so precise it defied the known tools of the era. Lunar mansions were engraved alongside fixed stars, a distinctive innovation in Islamic globes, mapping both nightly and monthly celestial cycles. Chemical traces revealed faded pigments likely coloring the globe's surface, now silent in corrosion, hinting at a once vivid, almost divine visual experience. Yet the true challenge lay in understanding the globe's precise astronomical function, not just a decorative artifact, but a mathematical instrument enabling calculations of star risings, settings, and the lengths of days, essential to prayer times and the orientation of the faithful. But beneath the marvel of science lurked a chilling enigma, the globe's journey amid a period of political trauma and cultural transplantation. Crafted in Andalusia, then a beacon of multicultural science, the globe embodies the transmission of knowledge across borders disrupted by Mongol invasions and the fracturing of Islamic empires. Its maker's Arabic inscription, declaring humble service to the supreme God, whispers of devotion intertwined with intellect. Yet how did such a globe survive centuries of turmoil, war, and conquest? What hands carried this sphere from one court to another, from Valencia to far-flung observatories like Moraga, where displaced artisans sought refuge under Mongol patronage? Its survival is almost uncanny, as if protected by celestial will. Today, this globe rests beneath museum glass, its stars frozen in metal and time. Visitors gaze upon a cosmos once alive, with every silver star mapped by a civilization blending religion, science, and art. What prayers were whispered looking up at this very sky? What secrets of fate and fortune did ancient astrologers divine as the globe turned in their hands? And hauntingly, how many other globes, lost to history's storms, still map hidden skies we may never know? The celestial globe from the Islamic Golden Age remains a shimmering enigma, forever turning, silently proclaiming. The heavens once belonged not just to gods or poets, but to mathematicians and dreamers who dared to hold the stars in their palm, and in that glow, transformed our view of the cosmos forever. A bridal casket with scenes from the life of Paris, The intricately carved panels, alive with mythological figures, promised romance, yet their very material, bone and stained wood, held a chilling secret. These were the bridal caskets, crafted in 15th century Venice by the Imbriachi family workshop, and they were designed not just to hold jewels, but to indoctrinate. Each scene depicted the life of the Trojan prince Paris, from his childhood abandonment and rescue to his fateful judgment of the goddesses and the abduction of Helen, the event that ignited the Trojan War. These luxury objects, intended as gifts from a prospective husband to his espoused wife, offered a stark, silent lesson about destiny, desire, and the catastrophic consequences of love. An unnamed art historian, poring over the delicate inlay, might have felt a shiver of unease. "They're beautiful, yes, but look closer," they might have whispered. The very story of Paris, a man whose love sparked a war that destroyed a civilization, is presented to a young bride. What did they intend her to understand? The caskets were not merely decorative. They were didactic instruments, conveying the complex narratives of classical literature which a well-educated noble or merchant-class patron would have been expected to read. The repetition of such imagery across multiple similar caskets suggests a popular, yet unsettling, moral lesson for the courtly medieval audience. Scientists and art conservators, using advanced imaging and material analysis, have revealed the painstaking craftsmanship, bone plaques meticulously carved and then inlaid with stained wood and horn. This technique, characteristic of the Imbriachi workshop, highlighted the economic value and the sought-after nature of such objects. Yet, despite the precision, the true scientific enigma remains. How did these fragile objects, made from organic materials, survive centuries of social upheaval, war, and changing tastes, often retaining their delicate inlays and the subtle hues of the stained wood? There is no clear scientific explanation for their remarkable preservation, beyond careful handling and fortunate storage. The eerie undertones deepen when considering the context. While some contemporary Parisian ivory caskets depicted chivalric romances and allegories of courtly love, often featuring Arthurian legends like Tristan and Isolde or Lancelot, the Venetian Life of Paris caskets focused on a narrative ending in profound destruction. The empty shields on the lid, intended to be painted with the coats of arms of the bride and groom, suggest a personalization that binds the ominous narrative even closer to the young couple. Was this a warning? A reflection of the era's fascination with tragedy? The juxtaposition of a bridal casket, with scenes culminating in the Trojan War, is unsettling, an unspoken implication for the future of the marriage contained within its very design. Today, these bridal caskets, such as the one held by the Walters Art Museum, sit silently in collections, their bone and wood gleaming softly under museum lights. But the lingering dread persists. What anxieties did these miniature Trojan wars stir in the hearts of their young recipients? Did they understand the subtle, chilling message carved into their wedding gift, that love, unchecked, could lead to ruin? And as we gaze upon these intricate scenes, are we not also implicated in their ancient warning, forever reminded that even the most beautiful unions can conceal the seeds of their own destruction? The caskets remain, timeless sentinels, holding not only jewels but the dark echoes of cautionary tales. An 800-year-old golden straw for drinking wine. The glint of gold seemed almost too bright against the shadows of history as the 800-year-old golden straw was unveiled. A slender, gleaming tube painstakingly crafted for drinking wine, its surface etched with delicate patterns that whispered of medieval luxury and societal ritual. Found in an aristocratic context, this straw wasn't a mere convenience. It was a symbol of status and refinement in the courts of medieval Europe, where every sip of wine was a performance of power and elegance. An eyewitness to its discovery recalled the moment the tiny object was lifted from its burial setting. There was an almost electric hush. To hold a fine golden straw, so meticulously decorated, and know it was used centuries ago to drink wine, it instantly connected us to a vanished world of opulence and ritual. Unlike today's disposable straws, this was a reusable, precious item designed to preserve the clarity and taste of wine, reflecting medieval concerns about hygiene and class. Only the elite could afford such extravagance. Scholars and scientists have since pored over this exquisite straw with renewed fascination, employing elemental analysis and high-resolution imaging to decipher its composition and craftsmanship. The results revealed that artisans shaped the gold tube with unprecedented precision, using now-lost techniques of fine engraving and riveting that ensured both elegance and durability. Chemical residue analysis even suggested traces of compounds consistent with grape wine, linking the straw directly to its intended purpose. Yet, more puzzling was the straw's exact social function. Why did medieval aristocrats require straws to drink wine? Some suggest it served practical purposes, to avoid teeth stains, or to sip carefully from large communal cups laden with sediment, while others speculate it was a theatrical accessory, part of courtly etiquette and a marker of elevated status. The history behind this golden straw is steeped in mystery and uneasy curiosity. Medieval chronicles rarely mention such items explicitly, leaving a shadowy gap filled only by archaeological whispers and art depictions of banquets where nobles reclined, wine flowing freely but poured with caution. How common were these straws? Did they symbolize separation from common folk, or embody a deeper ritual purity in consuming the nectar of gods? The fact that so few have survived hints at deliberate ceremonies and care in their use, but also at the fragility of precious metals forged into intimate objects. Now housed reverently under museum lights, the straw gleams as a chilling reminder that even the most mundane acts, drinking, were cloaked in secrecy and symbolism centuries ago. What stories lie in each sip taken through this slender tube? What whispered conversations, betrayals, or toasts to destiny? And hauntingly, how many other golden relics, hidden or lost, trace the delicate veins of power and ritual that once flowed through aristocratic hands? The 800-year-old golden straw remains a slender thread connecting us to a world where luxury hid layers of meaning, and even the simplest pleasures were charged with mystery. An ivory rosary depicting life's impermanence. The sharp contrast on each bead struck like a paradox carved in ivory. One side showed the rosy face of a well-fed youth, vibrant with life and worldly promise. Flip it, and a gaunt skeleton stared back, hollow eyes fixed in eternal silence, ribs showing beneath a taut veil of skin, a haunting reminder of what awaits beyond the fleeting pleasures of existence. This was no mere rosary. It was a memento mori, a devotional string of beads from 16th century France or the Netherlands, painstakingly carved in ivory, embodying the terrifying truth of life's impermanence and the inevitability of death. An eyewitness moment unfolded when scholars examined the central pendant, a suspended masterpiece of 4 half-length figures intertwined back to back. A youthful man, adorned in luxurious crimson clothing and fur, hints at earthly love and mortal vanity, but his gaze is shadowed by the figures surrounding him. A spectral devil clutching the dying man, a grim skeleton clutching an hourglass, a symbol of time slipping irretrievably away, and a worm and snail crawling across the skull, evoking decay's slow but unstoppable advance. The words Vedo Mori, I go to die, inscribed on the dying man's brow, echoed the medieval tradition of Carmina de Mort, poems that forcefully reminded all social ranks, from peasants to kings, that death comes for all alike. When scientists and conservators applied chemical analyses, they uncovered faint traces of red and black paint on the ivory, revealing that this stark meditation on mortality was once vibrantly colored, life and death entwined in haunting contrast. Yet, the imagery and scientific scrutiny deepen the mystery. Why is so much artistry devoted to death? The rosary's meticulous carvings served as constant companions in prayer and meditation, literally counting time through repetitive devotion while confronting believers with their own frailty. The dual faces of each bead symbolized a spiritual journey, an acceptance that the world's glories are transient, and salvation lies in preparing for what follows the mortal coil. This ivory rosary was more than an object. It was a psychological battleground dredging up dread and hope in equal measure as medieval Christians clung to faith amid plague, war, and social upheaval. The highly individualized carvings, combining youthful vigor and death's inevitability, demonstrated the era's obsession with memento mori as a spiritual and moral imperative. Yet it remains eerie. The continuous turning of these beads, sinewy skeletons, and lush youth locked in eternal struggle, silently haunting each prayer whispered through the centuries. Today, displayed behind museum glass, the rosary's ivory glow still seems to flicker with life and death's grim dance. It challenges every visitor to confront the unspoken dread that underlies human existence, the unavoidable end awaiting every soul, no matter how radiant or powerful. What prayers were whispered by trembling hands clutching this rosary? What emotions surged when the skeleton's hollow gaze met the eyes of the living? And, hauntingly, how many more such intimate relics of impermanence lie buried in forgotten chapels or private collections, silently reminding us that, in the turn of each bead, our own mortality waits, patient and unyielding? Several well-preserved treasures buried with an Anglo-Saxon to accompany him in the afterlife. The ground at Sutton, who had long hidden its silent secret until 1939, when the soil finally gave way to an astonishing spectacle, the imprint of a 27-meter-long ship, buried deep within a grassy mound, cradling an extraordinary Anglo-Saxon grave. Within this decayed ship's remains, a burial chamber preserved an unmatched collection of treasures, deliberately arranged to accompany a great leader into the afterlife. Gifts chosen, as if to ensure power and prestige transcended death itself. An eyewitness to the moment might have whispered in awe at the regal splendor. A ceremonial helmet intricately forged with a human face mask, a shield and sword of unmatched craftsmanship, gold and garnet dress fittings sparkling as if alive, and Byzantine silverware reflecting long-distance connections. The sight radiated a story frozen in time, the wealth of a man whose status rivaled kings. Scholars believe it to be the final resting place of Raedwald, king of East Anglia, who died in the early 7th century. Yet no inscription crowned the grave, only the richness of artifacts declaring his importance in a world otherwise sparse in written history. Scientific investigations have since peeled back layers of mystery. Metallurgists confirmed the gold fittings were crafted with techniques far advanced beyond his era, and trace elements in the garnets revealed origins as distant as Sri Lanka. Analysis of the wood and soil established a precise timeline between 610 and 635 AD. Yet, despite such detail, many questions remain unanswered. How did this vast international trove reach East Anglia, nestled in a remote corner of England? Why was this ship burial the last of its kind? And what exact rituals surrounded this journey into the unknown? The science illuminated but deepened the riddle, an intersection of power, faith, and ancient burial customs locked beneath an English hill. Beneath the earth, an eerie quiet lingered. The ship was not just a vessel but a symbol, carrying the grave goods like a royal armory to the afterlife. The intricately decorated helmet, its face forever frozen in iron, seemed to guard its occupant's spirit, while the luxurious feasting equipment suggested an eternal banquet beyond mortal years. In this grand gesture, a deep anxiety gleamed. Death was not an end but a perilous voyage, and these treasures were weapons and honors for the journey. Today, the Sutton who treasures lie preserved in the British Museum, gleaming reminders of a vanished world. Visitors speak softly before the iron helmet and gold-clad artifacts, aware they stand before more than remnants. They face questions as old as mortality. Who truly lay beneath the mound? Was this burial a final assertion of kingdom and identity? And chillingly, what spirits still roam among those jewels and weapons, guardians of a past where life and death spun endlessly on a whispered wheel of fate? Sutton who remains a spectacular memory of a king and his treasures, a dread echo in time that the riches we leave behind may outlast even the names we forget. The crystal and gold reliquary of Mary Magdalene said to encase her tooth. The gleam of gold and the shimmer of crystal held a story both sacred and mysterious. The reliquary of Mary Magdalene's tooth, a masterpiece crafted in 14th and 15th century Tuscany designed to enshrine a single, revered relic, a posterior tooth said to belong to Mary Magdalene herself. Inside a hollowed-out rock crystal egg, at its heart rested this tooth, encased beneath gilded copper and silver adorned with delicate verre eglamise glasswork. a reverse-painted medallion depicting Christ crowning the reliquary with sanctity. This was not just a container, but a spiritual vessel meant to bring the faithful face-to-face with a tangible connection to one of Christianity's most enigmatic saints. Eyewitnesses of the reliquary's discovery and display have marveled at its craftsmanship and eerie power. To gaze through the clear crystal window and see the aged tooth preserved inside was to confront a relic at once intimate and unyielding, a physical remnant that, for centuries, has inspired awe and devotion. The tooth's journey remains shrouded in mystery. Scholars know only that it likely arrived in Tuscany sometime before the reliquary's creation, perhaps carried by Franciscan monks who valued Mary Magdalene as a powerful intercessor. The reliquary was probably housed in a Franciscan chapel, where pilgrims venerated it as a direct memorial of the saint. Scientific investigations into the relic's authenticity and history have been cautious but intriguing. While the Church has traditionally prevented invasive testing on sacred relics, analysis of the reliquary's materials confirmed remarkable medieval metalworking skills and the use of the ver eglamise technique, an art requiring reverse painting on glass with exceptional precision. Chemical examinations revealed residual pigments, indicating the piece was once vibrantly colored, yet the tooth inside has not undergone scientific dating, leaving its provenance speculative. Across Christian traditions, teeth serve as practical relics. They resist decay, are easy to transport, and can be divided. This tangible survival contributed to the tooth's status as a potent religious object, standing in as a physical embodiment of Mary Magdalene's enduring spiritual presence. But the relic carries an eerie resonance beyond artistry or faith. Mary Magdalene's identity has been historically mysterious and contested. Follower of Jesus, witness to the resurrection, sometimes maligned, sometimes exalted, making any relic associated with her both precious and controversial. The practice of safeguarding and displaying body parts like a tooth speaks to a medieval obsession with physical proximity to holiness, yet it also raises haunting questions. How had this single tooth survived nearly 2 millennia? What stories passed between those who carried it from lands unknown to Tuscan workshops that transformed it into a sacred gem? And what unseen hands, prayers, or miracles guarded it through centuries of upheaval? Today, the reliquary of Mary Magdalene's tooth rests in museum collections such as the Metropolitan Museum of Art and stands as a testament to devotion, mystery, and the human desire to clutch the tangible traces of the divine. It invites visitors into a silent dialogue with time and belief, bridging the earthly and the eternal through a small, preserved fragment. The gold, crystal, and ancient tooth shimmer with unanswered questions. Who was Mary Magdalene beyond legend? How real is the relic within this precious orb? And what power still pulses in the intimate relic that, against all odds, endures, its eerie presence whispering across centuries with the quiet voice of sanctity and enigma? The intricately crafted Gloucester candlestick. The moment the Gloucester candlestick emerged from the shadows of history, its brilliance cut through like a beacon of medieval artistry and faith. Crafted between 1107 and 1113 for St. Peter's Abbey in Gloucester, later Gloucester Cathedral, this extraordinarily intricate gilt bronze candlestick was no mere vessel for light. It was a fiery struggle frozen in metal, a masterpiece merging artistry, theology, and cultural transition at a critical crossroads between Anglo-Saxon tradition and Norman influence. An eyewitness to the candlestick's unveiling might have paused in awe at the riot of detail. 3 long-eared dragons with immense outspread wings formed its sturdy feet, clutching the ground with fierce power while their bodies twisted into a dense tangle of intertwining shoots and thick foliage. Among the leaves, faces, monkeys, lions, and grotesque creatures burst forward in a chaotic dance symbolizing the ceaseless battle between vice and virtue. At its center, a large knob bore the carved symbols of the 4 evangelists, a potent spiritual anchor amid the chaos. The Latin inscription there recorded a sacred gift. The devotion of Abbot Peter and his gentle flock gave me to the Church of St. Peter at Gloucester, linking craftsmanship with communal faith. Scientists examining the candlestick with cutting-edge imaging and metallurgical analysis confirmed its creation through the lost wax casting technique, showcasing astounding technical mastery for the era. Separate sections, cast individually, were joined flawlessly, demonstrating the goldsmith's command over the dense gilt bronze surface. Chemical tests revealed layers of delicate gilding, highlighting its radiance and sacred function. Yet, the candlestick remained elusive in its full meaning. Was it simply a light source, or a luminous metaphor for spiritual illumination and divine struggle? Scholars interpret the menagerie of beasts as symbolizing mankind's moral conflicts, striving toward salvation or slipping into damnation under heaven's watchful gaze. The candlestick story is shadowed with mystery and dramatic upheaval. Commissioned during a fragile post-conquest England, it straddled cultural fault lines, melding Anglo-Saxon iconography with the robust Norman aesthetic. After the devastating fire at Gloucester Abbey in 1122, the candlestick vanished from English records. Some suggest it was spirited away or looted, only to resurface centuries later in Le Mans Cathedral, France, where it remained until the upheavals of the French Revolution scattered many such treasures. Its survival is enigmatic, carrying with it whispers of shifting power, devotion, and loss. Today, the Gloucester candlestick rests under the protective gaze of the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, its gilded surface shimmering beneath muted lights. Meanwhile, 3D printed replicas have returned to Gloucester, allowing visitors to touch the echoes of faith and artistry born nearly a millennium ago. Yet as visitors hold these copies, the original's aura reverberates through time, provoking a chilling realization. Each flickering light it once held represented not just illumination, but the fragile and infinite struggle between darkness and light, between mortal frailty and divine grace. Who forged this artifact that pulses with spiritual and cultural transitions? What prayers and fears flickered like flames around its metal arms? And beyond the beauty and skill, what lingering shadows does this ancient candlestick cast on the enduring human quest for light amid encroaching darkness? The Gloucester candlestick remains a mesmerizing symbol of medieval faith, artistry, and the eternal tension between virtue and vice, its light forever inviting us to confront the mysteries lurking in history's flickering shadows. The Devonshire hunting tapestries depicting a medieval bear hunt. The tension was immediate as eyes fell on the vast tapestry stretching over 33 feet. A frozen moment of aristocratic ritual turned into a wild spectacle. The Devonshire hunting tapestries boar and bear hunt. Crafted between 1430 and 1450 in the weaving centers of Arras, France, these magnificent tapestries thrust viewers into the heart of a deadly chase where knights and noble ladies, clad in elaborate court dress, hunted beasts symbolizing raw power and elusive danger. Unlike today's sanitized visions of hunting, here men faced boars charging with savage tusks and bears lurking in cave shadows, while finely attired women crossed streams, their flowing sleeves inscribed with reversed phrases like Monty le Desire, desire grows, twisting meaning as if fate itself was encoded into thread. A witness to this scene might have caught the glint of spears designed with crossbars to halt a boar's deadly charge, and heard the baying dogs eagerly pursuing the forest's most ferocious creatures. The tapestry's men hunted on foot, their faces grim beneath towering headdresses, while on the right side, a bear and her cubs cowered in a cave, highlighting the peril both hunters and hunted faced. By the 15th century, boars symbolized the very beastliness opposed to the noble deer, while bears, extinct in Britain by then, were exotic monsters, prized for fur and ruthlessly driven from forests to protect livestock. The tapestry's endless forest, thick with flowering trees, suggests an eternal spring, a backdrop at once lush and menacing, a landscape that breathed with danger and aristocratic showmanship. Art historians and textile scientists have thrown themselves at the mystery of these tapestries, using close visual analysis, fiber studies, and historical context to unlock their secrets. Made with wool on low-warp looms, the tapestries display weaving errors, like reversed lettering, revealing the human hand behind their grandeur. The materials and dyes reflect not only luxury, but also a connection to the courtly culture of Burgundy and France, where hunting was less sport and more ceremonial theater. Yet no documents explain why these elaborate hunts, so dangerous and meticulously staged, were chosen as tapestry subjects. Some scholars argue that these artworks encoded a message about power's ambiguities, the brutality hidden behind noble leisure, the thin line between civilization and savagery. The eerie atmosphere thickens when considering their use. Hanging from floor to ceiling in cold stone halls like Hardwick Hall in Derbyshire, the tapestries insulated noble chambers, but also told layered stories. Hunting was a metaphor for courtly life, male prowess, and the exercise of control over nature and people alike. Women, shown participating with elegant falcons and in delicate gowns, were more than bystanders. They were symbols of status and continuity amid the hunt's violence. And the recurring motifs of desire, a hunted boar, a flowing sleeve inscribed with longing, hint at risks and tensions woven into aristocratic life itself. Today, housed in the Victoria and Albert Museum, the Devonshire hunting tapestries mesmerize visitors with their scale and detail, but also unsettle with their layered meanings. What whispered bargains and silent combats lay beneath those embroidered scenes of boar spears and cave bears? How many real hunts ended with blood on noble hands, echoing the tapestry's eternal chase? And hauntingly, what unseen power did these woven beasts and hunters hold? Reminders that beneath every courtly veneer lurked the wild forces of nature and desire, stalking endlessly across medieval fates? The tapestries remain a breathless confrontation with power, danger, and desire. A medieval drama where every stitch fuels suspense, and every shadow invites the viewer deeper into a hunt that never truly ends. An arm reliquary housing a relic from St. Fiacre. The cold shimmer of silver and the sparkle of glass gems barely masked a spectral presence. The arm reliquary of St. Fiacre, a medieval masterpiece shaped like a lifelike arm raised in blessing, its gesture frozen in eternal benediction. Crafted in northern France around 1200 to 1250, this reliquary was designed not only to enshrine a fragment of the saint's actual arm bone, but to summon his healing power. Fiacre, the gentle Irish saint, famed across France for curing illnesses and protecting gardeners, still reached out through time, blessing the faithful from his silver shrine. An eyewitness to the reliquary's unveiling at the Metropolitan Museum of Art described the moment with reverent awe. Glistening silver overlies a wooden core, with glass windows beneath which the relic once rested, while ornate cabochons and intricate engravings clothed the saint's arm in luxurious vestments. The inscription on the wrist cuff and a fragile parchment tag identify the sacred occupant as Saint Fiacre himself, whose cult flourished in Meaux, France. The arm reliquary embodied more than a container. It was a vivid embodiment of priestly authority and miraculous intercession, brought physically into the church liturgy to bless and heal. Scientific examination revealed construction techniques that combined precious silver sheeting, fine filigree, and jeweled accents, materials and craftsmanship reflective of Meuse Valley goldsmith traditions and influenced by renowned 13th-century artisans like Brother Hugo of Oignies. The reliquary's two rock crystal windows gave glimpses of the relic itself, engaging believers visually and spiritually. Yet despite technological advances, the exact origins and provenance of this reliquary remain uncertain, its path through time obscured by the upheavals of the French Revolution and religious wars that threatened to annihilate saintly shrines. But the reliquary's eerie aura comes not only from its artistry, but from the saint it enshrines. Saint Fiacre, who died near Meaux in the 7th century, became renowned for miraculous healings, especially of skin diseases and hemorrhoids. His relics, particularly the arm, were treasured and paraded amid desperate prayers for cures. The arm reliquary was more than sculpture. It was a vessel of divine touch, a mediator between mortal suffering and heavenly grace. Its tangible presence filled churches and processions, making the saint's blessing physical and immediate as clerics raised it over the sick and faithful. Today, resting in the Met's European collection, this arm reliquary still holds silent power, its blessing gesture frozen in time, yet reaching out across centuries. It stirs urgent questions. Whose hands crafted this extraordinary vessel to house a saint's bone? What miracle seekers clutched its silver surface, longing for healing? How did this embodiment of faith survive wars, revolutions, and the ravages of time, carrying with it whispers of hope and dread? And, most hauntingly, what remains of the saint himself trapped inside, the mysterious essence of holiness encased forever beneath silver and crystal, forever reaching out to bless the living? An aquamanile in the form of Aristotle and Phyllis. The moment the brass aquamanile shaped as Aristotle and Phyllis was lifted from its dusty medieval niche, a thrill of scandal and subversion rippled through the room. This was no mere water vessel. It was a bracing medieval satire cast in metal, where great philosopher Aristotle, draped in scholarly robes, was bent beneath the mischievous power of Phyllis, a woman who dared to invert the social order. The aquamanile, crafted in the 12th or 13th century, embodied a biting lesson on desire, control, and the challenge to authority, its spout cleverly concealed beneath the folds of Aristotle's stooped form. An eyewitness to the aquamanile's unveiling might have noted the gleam catching on Phyllis's sly grin as she rides crowned Aristotle like a caparisoned beast, her hand gripping his head, a potent symbol of female dominance challenging patriarchal reason. The vessel's function, to pour water during ritual hand-washing, added layers of irony. The philosopher, a symbol of discipline and knowledge, made subservient in a brief, liquid gesture of cleansing and submission. This anthropomorphic object was both a practical implement and a vivid moral tale, reminding medieval audiences that even the wisest man could be undone by lust and folly. Despite centuries lost to time, scientific examinations of surviving aquamaniles like this one have revealed remarkable craftsmanship in copper alloys and bronze casting. Detailed metallurgical analysis showed the use of the lost wax technique, allowing intricate detailing of flowing robes, expressive faces, and dynamic posture. Traces of gilding and silver inlay suggested these vessels once gleamed in candlelight, adding solemnity to their mischievous messages. Yet the full story behind the maker's intentions remains obscured. Why was such a stark satire chosen to marry function and form in valuable ritual objects? Scholars contend it reflects contemporary anxieties about power, morality, and the seductive threat of female influence, encrypted in household rites. The unsettling message embodied in Aristotle and Phyllis reaches beyond medieval humor to a chilling reminder. Power can be fragile, and the reversal of roles, especially in gender and authority, could be publicly mocked, but also feared. This aquamanile silently taunts the rigidity of social hierarchies, embodying an eerie dance between reason and desire, discipline and subversion, intellect and instinct. It is a whisper from the past warning how easily the wise might be led astray. Today, this aquamanile stands as a rare surviving testament to medieval wit and craftsmanship in institutions preserving the curious margins of history. As viewers pour water through its cleverly hidden spout, they activate centuries-old satire and power plays still resonant. Who first poured water from this vessel, and what laughter or unease rippled through medieval halls? What deeper truths about knowledge, control, and human folly pulse beneath its shining surface? The aquamanile of Aristotle and Phyllis remains an enigmatic relic, forever pouring its lessons, forever bending the mighty, forever challenging the balance of power. Shoe reliquary of St. Margaret meant to hang over the beds of expectant mothers. The moment the shoe reliquary of St. Margaret was lifted into view, the delicate leather case, shaped unmistakably like a shoe, spoke of more than craftsmanship. It whispered of a profound medieval hope intertwined with fear and faith. Crafted in the late 14th century, probably in France or Switzerland, this reliquary was not just a container for a precious relic, likely a foot-shaped bone or fragment. It was meant to hang over the beds of expectant mothers, a talisman invoking St. Margaret's legendary protection during childbirth, a perilous and uncertain ordeal in the medieval world. Eyewitness accounts from art historians describe the reliquary's intricate carvings, telling the saint's dramatic life story across its surface. Near the lock plate, St. Margaret is seen bursting free from the belly of a dragon that had swallowed her, a piercing visual symbol of her miraculous survival. This moment resonated deeply with women in labor, who prayed to St. Margaret to overcome the dangers of childbirth as she overcame death unscathed. The loop at the back of the case suggests it was hung above a bed, a silent sentinel watching over both mother and unborn child. The artwork is designed to be viewed from right to left, guiding the onlooker through the saint's trials and triumphs like a sacred narrative unfolding in protective detail. Scientific examinations of the shoe reliquary reveal meticulous leatherwork and fine decorative scenes, with evidence the case once housed a smaller precious relic inside, probably made from precious metals or bone. The surviving details of painted scenes and gilding hints at vibrant colors that would have heightened the reliquary's spiritual and visual power. However, the fragile organic materials and centuries of wear leave unanswered mysteries about its exact contents and how often such reliquaries were actually used in domestic devotional practice versus church display. But the deeper, chilling resonance lies in St. Margaret's association with childbirth protections, an era when many women faced life and death struggles during labor. The reliquary embodies not only reverence for the saint, but also the medieval reliance on tangible, sacred objects as shields against the unknown. Hanging the shoe-shaped reliquary was an act of faith steeped in both hope and dread, a prayer that the saint's miraculous power would protect the most vulnerable moments of life's beginning. Today, the St. Margaret shoe reliquary remains preserved at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, a poignant relic of medieval spirituality and maternal anxiety. It invites modern viewers to sense the tension between mortal fear and divine hope carried by expectant mothers centuries ago. What whispered prayers passed beneath that hanging shoe? How many mothers found courage in the saint's fierce battle with the dragon? A story carved permanently into leather. And hauntingly, how many such reliquaries, now lost, once watched silently over countless beds, their protective power quietly invoked against the shadow of childbirth's peril? The St. Margaret shoe reliquary remains a fragile but powerful testament to faith's tangible embrace in times of mortal uncertainty, an enduring touchstone for life, death, and the miracles sought between them. Feel free to leave your comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more mysteries like this. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.